Well, following today's news that we've been hearing now, there's going to be no longer a takeover of the Ramsey Post Office as such, and to be staying in the actual same building at the courthouse. We're joined now by the chairman of the Ramsey Post Office, Cregeen, also the vice chairman, Tony Wild. Well, first of all, we should start by asking you, how do you view the affairs that have gone on? I mean, is this really the end of the road?
Yes, we've had it confirmed that the Ramsey Cooperative Limited have pulled out of the negotiations, and it's very disappointing. A lot of hours from both sides have gone into trying to make this work, but unfortunately with contractual negotiations things don't always work out, and we're now going to go out to tender again to see if we can get somebody to continue the services in Ramsey.
How much of a shock has this been then to you about this news? Because obviously it's been going on for some time, the negotiations, and in fact we've been hearing that things are looking pretty good. There's been lots of positive remarks coming out. So when did it all change?
It's in the last week that unfortunately things have not been able to move on, and the post office has to move on. We have to look to the future of services that we're going to provide in Ramsey, and currently we're going to carry on running the post office as it is, and we will go out to tender, and hopefully very shortly we may have a new operator for the services in Ramsey.
I think the critical element of this is to provide certainty to our colleagues in the Ramsey Post Office, who have obviously been through a time of change and transition and uncertainty, and it's very important that we look after our colleagues. And
from the outset, we tried to cause as little distress to the staff as possible, and this has gone on longer than any of us would have liked.
Now, the other side in this can't talk to us because they've got confidentiality clauses in place with you, and you've entered into that with them, but they have issued a statement. It was interesting, it wasn't a shared statement, you both produced your own. So, reading between the lines, should we take it that this wasn't a happy situation that both parties are in and that you painted?
No, we actually met with them twice over the last week to see if we can progress this, and we have shared how the press releases were going out. So I don't think your comment is correct that it's not amicable, but we are moving on.
I've been getting the impression, though, it's not being amicable because other people have been talking to us, third parties not directly involved, not under this gagging order, but it seems that maybe one of your civil servants has been quite challenging, shall we say, to deal with.
I think when you go into negotiations, both sides are challenging to make sure that you get the best outcome for the businesses. We've continued and we've signed the agreement with Man and Retail to provide the services in Douglas, and this was contractual negotiations between both parties.
I think it's worth pointing out, Paul, that the Ramsey Postal Cooperative does consist of quite a range of people, but very many professionals, and they negotiated in depth, and likewise the post office negotiation team reciprocated. So it was a complex series of discussions.
I think when you're going through any negotiations, there will be difficulties in there, and there'll be one side that feels that there's one point that they just can't move on, and unfortunately that's where negotiations finish, and we've agreed to part. And I think from their comments is that if the post office services move to another building in Ramsey, they are looking to provide community services there, and we'll do our best to try and help them.
Can you tell me this then? Who was handling the negotiations? Was it your CEO, Mr. Kelly, or was it a civil servant, somebody at your end? Who actually takes responsibility for this and breaking off the negotiations?
Well, we had two officers that were carrying out the negotiations. It wasn't Mr. Kelly because we had a project team that were doing it. Points were coming back to the board about what the agreement was, and Ramsey Postal Cooperative were very much aware of that. And we've tried to work with them up until last week. Even this week we were trying to make it work, but unfortunately it couldn't progress any further.
Let's make this absolutely clear. You're happy with the way this has been dealt with and your civil servants, the people on your end of negotiations?
We don't have civil servants. It's not civil servants. It's not civil servants that we have down there. But what we've got is we've got a negotiating team there, and there's been numerous people from both sides that have been sat around the table. Tony and myself went in last week to see if we could try and progress this, and unfortunately, the Ramsey Cooperative have decided to part ways.
And the expression that was ministered in the media today of collapse is an overstatement. I think in the end, both parties decided that we could go no further, so we ended negotiations.
Because Mr. Wild, you're new, or fairly new to this anyway, so you've come into this with some fresh eyes. Can you also confirm that you're happy the way this has all been handled and the way your people negotiating have done the best?
Yes, no, very much so. You've got to remember the Post Office appointed me as the facilitator at the start of the year to work with the cooperative to facilitate the movement of information between both parties. So I was very closely involved with the cooperative on their Saturday meetings, and it was a great shame because a great team of people, with a lot of enthusiasm, and to get to this stage and not have a result with all that passion that was in the community is sad. It's sad and regretful. I know the personalities involved. Everybody's been very measured about the whole thing, and they've got some other plans that might benefit the community of Ramsey, and if we can help in any way, we will do.
Now, of course, as you say, it's going back out to tender, but let's be looking at this. It'd be only one player in town, surely. That would be the Spa store. I mean, you have this certain criteria that has to be met for the post office to go into a store. So, am I correct in saying this will really be back to Plan A, the original one, and of course going to Spa?
No. Paul, even you could go and put a tender in, and if you had a team behind you who could run a retail unit, you could put your MTTV hat on and run the post office, given a good business plan.
So are you expecting many other candidates to come forward beside the Spa store?
Yeah, I hope there will be a number of people that will express an interest in it, because then that keeps it competitive, and it will get the best for both businesses there.
And as for the building itself, the old courthouse, there's been talk actually, I know that maybe some civil servants might be able to use it, or other community uses. Are you going to be backing those?
I'm not aware of any plans to get more civil servants out there. I'm aware that the Ramsey Cooperative Limited have said that they would like to have community provision in the building, but the building is still there for anybody to use for postal services. And if an operator comes forward and they want to use the building for postal services, that is an option for it to continue in that with another operator.
This venture must cost both parties a considerable amount of money to get to this stage. Are you still committed to closing that store and that's not being longer a Crown post office and being just a sub-post office? How much has it all cost you so far?
Well, we've had the savings that we budgeted for earlier on when we were hoping to get transition earlier on in the year. So there's the savings there. The costs are mounting the longer this goes on. But, that's the way of negotiations, that when you're trying to transfer a business to another party, timescales slip, and what the post office did was it listened to the will of the House of Keys, who said, step back, think again, and we've done that, which has caused additional waiting time, and we'll just move on. We have to do this. I think the emotive word of closing the post office, we're not closing the post office, it's converting it to a sub-post office model rather than closing it.
I think it is worth acknowledging, Paul, that if you take it from the Ramsey Courthouse Limited and the cooperative side of things, certain individuals have put their own personal money into project and have lost that too.
Will this be the end of all the cutbacks to the post office, or will other people still be in threat or danger of losing their jobs or services being withdrawn?
Well, the post office is always out trying to get more business. There's a number of contracts we've actually won that's actually generated more income. There's areas that we're looking to expand the business, and as a business, you have to look at your costs. We've had a mails revision, so we've already gone through the mails side of there. We've now looked at the retail network, and all this is to try and keep a provision of local services to the local people. When you consider the savings that we were going to make on this, it helps preserve the services that we're keeping in the community.
Have you got a final closing date for that building?
No, we haven't. We're not closing. Well, we're not closing, Ramsey. What we're actually doing is we're looking for a partner who will run the post office. Now, it may be in the courthouse buildings, and it may be in another property. So we will be going out to tender, and I hope as many people or businesses will look at this and think that there will be a benefit of running a post office next to their existing business.
And the lease may be a driver because that comes to renewal in July next year. So in reality, we want to get this sorted in the next 3 to 6 months.
Yes.